What?
Was it?
Hold on, that's down.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What?
Have a look at this thing. Jim, you all good?
I'm going down.
You okay, mate?
Oh, I got that light.
Wait.
I got the light at the bottom.
Have a bit.
No, I'm fine.
Okay,
I'm not
cool.
uncomfortable at all. Oh shit, here it is, the tunnel.
Okay.
Right, I don't know what he was saying when he said you could fit in it, because it's only about...
Okay.
Can you lower me down maybe another, I don't know, metre?
Yeah.
Okay, so, right, looking in front of me now, we've got a tunnel.
Yeah.
Probably about as big enough to crawl in, but it looks like it might even stretch. Holy shit, man. Once you get past this very small hands and knees crawl space, there's a big opening.
So, Jim,
Yeah.
you got your feet in the hole, yeah?
Yeah. Lower me a bit more.
A little bit more lower.
A little bit more.
That hat might fall off.
Right, I'm totally on my back now. Yeah, I'm videoing now.
Okay, so you're videoing.
Yeah, this is the hole I've just crawled through. Very difficult. And then above me, we've got another entrance. This cave that goes off towards the left. It's. Give me some more slack if you can, please.
A little bit.
Okay, well, as you can see, as you'll be able to see from the footage, this little doorway on the left-hand side, it goes to it keeps getting smaller and smaller, and then it appears to just go straight up. But it goes up, so it must come out in the house somewhere. So that's to my left. As I'm halfway down the well, that's in the entrance. On your left is another doorway, and then in front of me. Hang on. In front of me, unfortunately, the shadow of my phone is right in the way. But in front of me, you've got a long tunnel.
It's amazing to kind of virtually stand in there and imagine that 600 years ago, you know, people like us were in there chipping away to create this network. And that's the magic, I think, of what this technology does. It's not just a photo you're looking at from a distance. You can get up real close and see, like you said, the magic is to imagine that people are in here. People are carving this, and every single mark is a swing of the chisel to make this. I think it's really, I think, the moment you get closest to what ordinary people were doing in Warwick throughout this period. It's not earls, it's not priests, it's not great masters. You know, this is the labourer, the mason who's carving this. This is as close as I think we can get to those real people.
The whole tunnels idea in Warwick is just intriguing for us and for everyone else that lives in and around Warwick. With all of the history of the area, all of the lovely architecture and monuments that we've got, there's so much for us as a VR creative content company to go at.
Photogrammetry is the process of taking thousands of images of any real-world place, person or object, and taking those images and turning them into a really photorealistic 3D model. I'm really excited that we can bring the technology that we've been developing with RiVR to Warwick to help restore these historical places and keep them forever.
The idea of tunnels have really gone from just being legends to reality.
Okay, so I've come down the well by the looks of it, and the tunnel is directly ahead of me, so I'm going to make my way there, across these planks. Very much like I'm in the Goonies, really, isn't it?
So there's been legends of tunnels in Warwick for a long time. So my awareness of tunnels really comes from where they've been discovered by accident. So when construction work has been happening in Warwick, buildings have been pulled down or roads have been dug up, tunnels have been discovered purely by accident. They're documented by archaeologists, they're kept in our records office, and that's where historians like me can go along, consult the records and see what was dug where. But this is the first time really that an unexcavated tunnel has really been explored to such high quality and such detail.
I'm very interested by this this brick wall that's been put in at the end as well. And I see this is the graffiti you were talking about. Well, Tibbetts is a name I think going to be very familiar with a lot of people who know their history on Warwick. The Tibbetts were a very famous, very wealthy family throughout the Victorian period, which kind of aligns itself with the 1894. I think we're probably looking at a chap called Oliver Tibbetts. His father, Dr. John Tibbetts, was really one of the great philanthropists, great public servants in Warwick. He was the town surgeon in the kind of 1860s, 1870s and onwards. If this is 1894, I think Oliver, he's in his late teens, maybe early 20s. Yeah, I mean, obviously what's amazing about this is to think that Oliver Tibbetts, this teen is kind of running around down here in these tunnels. Oliver's brother, Hubert Tibbetts, he was really interested in Warwick's history. He wrote a lot of pamphlets and newspaper articles about it, so you can imagine him and his brother maybe finding these passageways and scuttling through them, which is amazing, you know, to think that 130 years ago there's people running around these tunnels, I guess doing a bit like I'm doing now.
Who's going down first then?
You are. You're in last day, I think.
You can see your hat from last time.
Oh yeah, get that for us. Yeah, no problem.
I guess the tunnels of Warwick are fascinating and intriguing to me in a nutshell, because when I watched your footage down the tunnel, when you went down the tunnel yesterday and I saw you get into the end of the tunnel and sort of seeing, you know, does this go any further? You had the same thing then that I've got now, that is why. It's like a little puzzle. It's like a puzzle with bricks in and rocks in and a well, and I always call them pub talkers. There's a lot of people in Warwick like talk about tunnels and never really want to investigate. They prefer to have the myth. So I don't want to have the myth, I want to know the fact. I want to scan above ground and below ground the whole of Warwick, and then I can just make my own conclusions, and everyone, including historians, can make their own conclusions and tell me whether these all these passages joined up in the past. So 12 years ago, my brother was working for a company that were renovating that house at Aptico, and they found the well in the basement, and they mentioned it to Joe, and some of them went down the hole a bit, but we didn't know how far they went. So that was the initial piece of information that we had. And then we had a news article that someone else sent us from a tunnels group, Warwickshire Tunnel Busters. And we read that article, and it said that there could potentially be a tunnel leading from the well at Dr. Tibbetts' house, which is that Tinker Tank house that we were in yesterday. And from that well, it said that it might communicate with the crypt at St Mary's, and that's basically where it came from to start with initially.
I think we'd all like to believe and we'd all like to imagine that these are secret tunnels that connect a kind of murky underworld of residents from times gone by. I think the reality is traditionally the tunnels that have been discovered in and around Warwick have had a very functional purpose, and that's principally as culverts to move waste, to move water out of the town, out of the roads, out of houses, into wells and into waste.
Using photogrammetry and virtual reality to visualise these tunnels is absolutely amazing for me. I'm such a visual learner anyway. Just been inside the experience and had a little look, and I was literally talking to Ross about lime mortar and different types of concrete, and he had talked to me about them on the photos before, but I'm now in VR using my hands to like touch it and explain it. So I think, yeah, for me it bridges that gap massively, because now I'm spatially learning.
The idea of tunnels as kind of secret passages that connect monasteries and churches is really an idea that develops in the Victorian period. Now, this is the era of great interest in the medieval world, and ideas of knights and chivalry and battles is so popular. So I think it's really in that period where ideas of these very functional tunnels, as they tended to be, became associated with myth and legend and plot and espionage.
The history of Warwick and the tunnels and what might be underground has just fascinated me for years. So we've been looking at the tunnels in Guy's Cliff House for probably 3 or 4 years, scanning different areas. But recently, in the last 18 months, it's definitely come more to a head, where we've been down the current location 3 or 4 times now, capturing lots more bits of data. And every time we go down, we think we're going to find something else that's going to like make me feel better that we found the answer. Never happens. It's just a load more questions, and now I want to scan more. So it's a bit of a problem.
Oh my word.
I think the more that's discovered under Warwick, the more that kind of mystery will be revealed. And I think, of course, the estimation of finding a single tunnel is quite, I think, can be explained away as a culvert. You know, the more tunnels that are discovered and finding out where they all link to, I think that could really tell us whether this is an underground network of culverts or whether it's something more. You know, where these places are going and where they're connecting to will tell us whether it's for waste or whether it's for something more sinister.
Yeah, so exactly as you described, we've got a brick-built barrel ceiling.
But I think what's really come about, I think, in the last year for me is just how important public health is. You know, I think for so long, I think we've got almost complacent in knowing and thinking that public health is just something that comes naturally, is something that's is just part of our life. But actually, I think if anything from the last year, we've just seen how important it is and how important health is, and particularly that was the case for early modern people of Warwick. You know, so I think we look at the tunnels and we think, why would they waste their efforts to get rubbish off the street, effectively? But that's how important health was. Disease was rife in towns like this, and it didn't take long for it to spread through the population. And so protecting public health and clearing waste and removing bad water, you know, from your house, your system, was as important as anything else to these ordinary men and women.
The tunnel turns 90 degrees to the left. Yeah, beyond the brickwork, and it turns into a completely carved stone.
But yes, I see this project going on quite a long time. I feel like I couldn't really put it to bed until we've scanned the whole of Warwick, above and below ground. It's fascinating seeing the correlation, for me, fascinating when I see the models where you see the tunnel underneath the ground, and now we can determine where the buildings on top of ground are in relation to the below ground. I absolutely don't know why that's fascinating to me, but it is every time. It's like a visual puzzle that I think a lot of people could probably help me try and solve in virtual reality. I'm trying to make it accessible for people on their sofa, so that instead of putting a harness on and lowering yourself down a hole, we're going to give people the ability anywhere in the world to put a headset on and go down that tunnel.
Now this is quite interesting because the red brick kind of ends. It suggests maybe this is as far as the unearthing went whenever the stonework up above was put in. The really interesting thing about these sandstone tunnels is how old they are. I mean, it suggests that certainly this area of the tunnel is much older than the tunnel we've just come from. My estimate would maybe be 450, 500 years, the kind of late 16th, early 17th century. It seems to be getting smaller at the end and then climbing up, and of course it would suggest that maybe that's going up to a building that was above, but potentially still is above.
But I think what's also fascinating about this particular technology is that rather than just having a kind of a page document that tells us what's there, is for the very first time, really, you're able to actually go down and explore this. And if you're like me and, you know, claustrophobic and don't want to go into tight spaces, this technology seems like it could be the perfect tool, really, to go in, to explore, and to really look in detail and discover things that I think a single document that explores a story could never do.